I'm Caralynn Vaughn. I'm 58 years old, almost, and I'm the executive director of Your Choice is Randolph, which is the pregnancy center in Randolph County. When I was 16, I was involved with a guy that was my first true love, and we began to see each other more and more and got sexually involved. Because I was of the mindset that good girls don't use birth control, I didn't use birth control. So I got pregnant, came home, told my parents about it, and I went away for a weekend, and by the end of the weekend, they moved all my stuff out on the front porch. And I came back and they we obviously don't know who you are, so we're going to let you go find out who that is. Not with us. We can't support you. So I was on my own at 16, moved in with my boyfriend. My mother had said in a few of the conversations leading up to that, Shirley, you're going to have an abortion. We'll take care of this. And so I really didn't even think about anything different. I really felt like that was the only option that I had. I had sort of drunk the Kool-Aid, being raised in the 70s. This was 77 or 76. It was kind of like having a dental procedure. You go to the doctor, get this done, hop back on your life, and off you go. Your life's the same. But in fact, once you're pregnant, your life's never going to be the same. Whatever direction you go, it's going to be totally different. So I had that abortion, and I thought that things would go back to normal, but they didn't. And I became, I think, very needy. I was really looking for affirmation, really, about who I was, for somebody to tell me that I was lovable because I'd been rejected by my parents. I'd gone through this experience that made me feel horrible about myself. And so I stayed with this guy in a relationship that wasn't super healthy. We actually had multiple abortions after that. I felt like God could never love me, that I would be so unattractive to him, that I was just, there was no way that God would even want to look at me. So really I was kind of a prime candidate for multiple abortions, because it sort of reinforced how I felt about myself, and I kept trying to say, somebody, please show me I'm lovable. Make me feel like I'm worth something. And I realized that it affected every area of my life. For years and years, I had no clue. Really, all the aspects of my life it colored. And it was such a huge issue for me, and a huge issue of shame that I never told anybody for years and years. In fact, it wasn't until I had been married for quite a while before I told my husband my whole story. It came to a place where I really got to know Jesus on a personal level, where I really recognized I was totally accepted, loved, and forgiven, and then I could tell my husband. I knew what it had done to me. I knew how my abortions had affected how I felt about myself, how I interacted with other people, how I had this sort of hole in me that couldn't be filled by anything. And I mean, I couldn't say it was a great thing. I was fine with it. For a few years I did. I was very pro-choice, and that was a real response to trying to, then I didn't have to contend with how I really felt and what was really deep under there. But a lot of it was relationship, was reaching out to people, not a system, not a church system, but reaching out to people who loved me, and learning that they loved this Jesus, and that he was the one who wasn't at all like what I thought church was portraying him as, but he was the one who loved me more than I loved myself. For a woman who's considering abortion and thinks, oh, it's not, I'll get over it, God will forgive me and I'll get past it. For one thing, I would say there's really not the getting past it that you think. When you have other children, it's going to come up and it's going to affect you, and it's going to, what I've seen in my life, but especially in the women I've worked with who haven't gotten to a place of healing with that, is that it will affect how you bond with your children. There was a period of time that I was really afraid that my first child would die. So many women think, I'll get over that and God will forgive me, but there's a distance it puts between you and God. And until you get to a place where you're willing to really face that and say, that was a death, I am a murderer, then you can't begin to deal honestly with yourself, with God, with other people. You're holding on to this huge secret in your life, and that affects you. That affects your interactions. That affects how you'll ever connect with the person who becomes your husband. It affects how you, there's not an aspect of life, whether it's your emotional strength and ability, your spiritual health, even physically. There are things that I know that my body is more prone to because of the abortions I've had. And those can't be erased just by saying, well, it was something I felt like I had to do. I felt that at that point, but it was wrong. It was the wrong choice. It was the selfish choice. It put me and my convenience or my fear of the future ahead of another life. I regret my abortion because it crippled me emotionally for lots of years and kept me in relationships that were unhealthy and kept me from making healthy choices for myself. I wasted a lot of years because of the damage it did to me. Years later, my own daughter got pregnant, and it was kind of ironic because I had been right there. And we were determined that I certainly wasn't going to handle it the way that my parents had. So we loved on her and cared for her, and she had her child. It was my oldest grandchild today, and I wouldn't regret a second of it.